There we go. Thank you very much. So a huge welcome tonight to Emma Croft. Emma, welcome to Collab Writers. It's absolutely delightful to have you here with us. So Emma is an incredible creative, a filmmaker, a writer, producer, director, and actor. And there is a lot for us to get through tonight, but just to sort of kick us off, Emma, can you tell us about where it all began? I mean, what was it when you were younger that sort of triggered this incredible journey that you've had to date in the creative world?
Well, hi, everybody. And thank you, Jenny, for having me. I'll try my best. And I'll have to do a condensed version because obviously it's quite a long story because I'm quite old now. But when I was really young, I grew up in a single parent family. My mum is not artistic at all, not at all. But she did do a few things for me, which were great because she could tell that I was probably a little bit different. I'm dyslexic. I'm probably what now is called neurodiverse, but back then they just thought I was difficult. And she took me to the ballet. So she would go and stand at Royal Festival Hall, wait for returns. And if a return came, I got to see a ballet. And she put me in ballet classes. And on Saturday and Sunday afternoons, she always would put on the movie that was on the TV, whatever that was. Quite often it was Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers. Sometimes it was wonderful film noir, which obviously I had no idea what it was. I remember being terrified by some things. They still stick with me now. But I through default, really had this exposure to movies and performance. There was nothing in my life, nobody that was that way inclined. So when I was at school, the school that I went to, they really didn't know what to do with me either. I loved English a lot, but otherwise I just wasn't academic and I couldn't do certain things really, but other things I excelled in, but they still didn't really know how to channel that. And I didn't know how to vocalize. I didn't know how to put into words what I was going through as a person, as a young person. And this was going back, this is Thatcher's 70s and 80s, you know. So it was very different schooling to now. And there was nothing in my school. There was no drama like there is today. There's no media studies. They didn't know how to advise me when I said, oh, maybe I would like to do something in the arts, because I was very, very good at drawing and painting and things like that. And then there was a whole class of us. I don't know if it was a class or more than one class. For some reason, we got a trip to a theatre. And we'd never been taken to do anything really, but they took us in a coach to London to see a show. And I was sitting right in the front row and the stage was like there. You know, I could reach out and almost touch, and it was Hamlet.
Wow.
And Hamlet died right in front of me. And he was dead and his face was very close to mine. And I was very young. It was 1982. I know exactly who was Hamlet as well, but I won't say. And Hamlet was dead. And then he kind of he sort of looked up, looked at me, winked, and went back to being dead. I was amazed. I was like, oh my God, that's just incredible, you know. And I'd been caught up in the whole thing, but I understood what was going on on stage. That's the thing. People always used to be going on about Shakespeare, and I got it. I just got it right from when I was young. I didn't have a problem understanding it. Maybe I just created my own version of what it was. I don't know, but it didn't faze me. Put numbers in front of me and I'm still fazed. But you know, those words, they were fine for me. So I suppose I didn't really have much success at school doing exams and things, and I stayed on to try and do A-levels, but I was so miserable because they didn't get me. And I was going to go back to do another year of A-levels. And I just said, I said to my mum, I'm not going, I can't do it. And she worked at a college, thank goodness. And she went and spoke to someone and managed to get me into this college to study theatre studies.
Fantastic.
And art. So I sort of finished school on one day and started college on the next day. It's where George Michael went, actually.
Oh, wow.
He was there before me.
Oh,
it's not there anymore, that college, Cassio College in Watford.
fantastic.
And there I was introduced to Bertolt Brecht, Stanislavski. There I was introduced to performing, because I hadn't done any at school apart from the shows that they used to put on.
Yeah.
Which I was never involved in because I wasn't very good musically. And I annoyed the music teacher so much when I was about 12. So I was in the chorus of Ruddigore and I knocked over a fire extinguisher in the middle of someone's solo. So she didn't like me. And it was only then when I got to college that I was able to start expressing this thing in me that was so powerful and overwhelming, really, because I had this deep need to do it. I had to do it. Ever since I was very, very young, I would read books. I would live in this sort of fantasy world that I created. When I was about 3, I used to sort of like dress in my mother's nightie and leave the house and go off. And they used to find me somewhere in the village. You know, I'd go and do all these sort of ridiculous extrovert things.
Yeah.
And then at other times I would become a complete loner. So I was always sort of swinging between the two.
And did you write poetry at that point when you were younger as well?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did. I used to get on my bicycle and cycle off into the fields and sit down and sort of spend a day by myself just writing a load of old crap, probably. But it was just this need to express something that that I had really strongly. And I suppose, you know, everyone's journey into acting and performing or the arts is going to be different. But I think mine just kind of came from this. Can I explain it? I'll try. It's sort of like some deep seated need to be involved with story. I didn't know it at the time, but whether it's being part of something that someone else is molding into a story, or the story in a photograph, or the story of a painting, or reading a novel, or whatever it is, you know, those are the things that filled up my head, and where I felt that I was being myself.
And do you think sort of learning other creative skills like painting and photography like you've done, do you think that has sort of made you better at what you do now as a filmmaker, director?
Oh, I don't know. It could be. It could, I suppose. I can't separate. I can't really separate myself as I am now from everything that I did do.
Yeah.
So I know that some people, for instance, maybe want to be a film director. They go to film college or film school and they learn traditional way or traditional route. Yeah. My whole journey is completely not traditional at all. It's I'm a complete misfit, I think, really. And
you're unique, Emma.
maybe, yeah. But if I wasn't acting, once I started, if I wasn't acting, or if I wasn't involved in a project of some kind, then I would go off to art school and I would do another art course. I've got lots and lots of photographs. I've been taking photographs for years, and I've done exhibitions, and I've always got my camera with me. So I love looking through the lens at things.
Yeah.
And I remember that's the one thing that when I was at school, an art teacher did for me, because they couldn't, they weren't able to do anything else. And he brought in a camera and let me take a photograph and showed me how to develop it in the darkroom. Huh. And I've always remembered that. I still got this ridiculous photograph that I took of my friends at the time. And I think having anyone give me, take an interest and give me something, I latched onto quite strongly. And because I was always just very good at drawing, not with a pencil. I mean, my paintings and my drawings are quite out there, but it's something that I could do. So I suppose, having been someone, I've worked a lot on Super 8, a long time. I've got lots and lots of rolls of Super 8 that I've never seen. Would you believe it? Wow. I've shot them over years and I've never seen them.
Gosh.
But I love shooting stuff on Super 8. Wow. And one of the reasons I haven't seen them is a long time ago, all my cameras, my Super 8 cameras and my film all were stolen. So, and that was a sort of a hard hit at the time. And and I've got so much filmed stuff that I've never seen, and there's probably ridiculous reasons why. Money mainly, I've got Super 16 film of a horror film that I started back in the 90s, in 92 or 93. It was never finished, but I've never seen the Super 16 footage.
Gosh, we'll have to change that.
There we go.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I've got lots of that stuff in this cupboard of mine.
Goodness.
But I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. So when did your first sort of real break come?
I was in the English Shakespeare Company with Michael Pennington and Michael Bogdanov, and Michael Pennington auditioned me. I'd been in a play and I'd been seen in that. And I was in the English Shakespeare Company. We did a world tour. Some of the most amazing places in the world. I went to Australia, India. Wow. I mean, just everywhere. So it was a year and a bit, I think. Oh. But I was seen in that. I was seen in Coriolanus, and I got cast as Rosalind in As You Like It, the movie by Christine Edzards that was made at Sands Films. So that was, I suppose, the biggest break at that stage for me as an actor. And working at Sands Films, I don't know if you know Sands Films at all, it's pretty self-contained film studio that's very independent. She was up for an Oscar for Little Dorrit. Oh. I don't know if I can't remember if she took the Oscar or if she said no. I can't remember at the time. She's quite an amazing woman. Yeah. And she was Truffaut's protege.
Gosh.
As far as I'm aware. She certainly worked with him, and she was certainly a student around that time. So Christine Edzards, she cast me in As You Like It. And I got a different agent at that stage. And I was with Kate Feast, who was pretty famous herself back in the day. unfortunately she died, which is not good, but the girls at the agency continued. But Kate was amazing, and I went on from that to do television. So things with Linda LaPlante, Trial and Retribution with Linda LaPlante. I did a thing with Mark Evans and Colin Firth. That was a long time ago. That was called Master of the Moor. So these were all kind of big jobs back in the day, I suppose. And I, at the time, got together with a group of people, and we were making little films. We were doing all sorts of things. This is back in 93. So this is 92, 93, 94. It's before the huge digital revolution, really. And when film clubs were just starting out, and we made the films that we made for the band Suede.
Oh.
We made them after the horror film that I was making, the zombie film, crashed. And this is something that I if I went back, I would definitely do differently. I would have continued that film, and I would have come back and made the London part of it, because all the actors were waiting. It was a great team. It was a great bunch. We were filming it in Devon. We had great special effects. And unfortunately, the director of that film, called Joy, he wasn't handling it very well. And I was an executive producer on that, and a producer, and we stopped the filming of it instead of carrying on or getting someone else to take over. But we didn't know any better, really, at the time. You know, we were young and we didn't really know what we could potentially have there. Because I now I know. Just shoot it, finish it, and then it's done. But back then, I had no idea, really.
But we live and learn in that way, don't we?
Yeah, right. So I suppose the thing was that I went from that onto making the Suede film, the films for Suede, and the tour films, the Dogman Star album with my friend David Lewis, and Andy Crabb was one of the editors, as well as David. But we made a 9-minute film on the roof of the house that I was living in.
Gosh.
On Super 8 to one of their tracks, and took that, well, David took that to the record company, and we got the gig. And we put together this great team, a lot of the people that I had worked with on the horror film. And we shot 10 short films. And David Lewis was amazing. He'd been working a lot with Derek Jarman at the time, and Derek had died. So we were lucky to get that. And they were great films. You know, they were shown as art pieces themselves on big screens behind the band when they were touring around. But they're also standalone films in their own right that are on, I don't know if it's a DVD or on their own. I think they're on the Introducing the Band DVD. But that was wonderful. I didn't get the producer credit though, because I didn't raise the money. Somebody else did, and they got that. So I got assistant producer and casting director and assistant director. I got all these great credits, but really, again, I didn't know any better to sort of say, well, hang on, no, I've put all of this together.
But you got the experience from it, of course, and that's obviously
so much experience.
Yeah.
But again, it's something that I didn't really realize I had, in a way. I didn't understand that I had that capability in that way. When I started making another film with a bunch of my friends, that other people as soon as you start selling scripts and bringing other people in, something that you're developing that's almost going to go comes in, and then it gets into development, and then eventually other people take over, and it never happens. And
Yes,
that's what happened with the next one, is it never happened because so many films get into a development stage and then they don't happen when you start putting money into it. And that's why I think that I'm sure Elliot will agree that if you just get out there and make your film yourself, you have control and you can do it the way you want to. And the film gets made and gets finished that way. You're not relying on other people to do it for you all the time. And I think that's one of the hurdles that I had for years, is that I always thought that the industry, a producer, someone was going to come along and do it for me and bring the money and but it
doesn't.
It's the very few that happens to, if you're lucky enough to be picked up by something like the Film London in one of their what would you say, one of the yearly the applications that they have. If you're lucky enough to get into one of those and you make a short with funding that they give you under their supervision, then you've got more likelihood of getting a feature under their supervision. But at my age now, you know, if I keep waiting for that, it's never going to happen. Well, it might, but I'll be 80 or 90 or something, you know. So
you're very young, Emma. You're very young.
I'm not that young.
But how do you, I mean, you know, on the subject of getting resources and finances, you know, how do you go about trying to do that nowadays?
Well, you listen to Elliot.
Elliot, do you want to come in?
Hey, you can spend your whole life waiting for BFI funding. I have been turned down over 30 years, Emma and Jennie, 38 times for public funding. I've never had one single penny.
Yeah.
So I think someone like you, Emma, with your skills and your attitude, which understands audiences far better than the mustachioed, white-haired gurus and those ivory towers at the public funding bodies, that you understand audiences. The skill that we both need to acquire, Emma, is how to attract private funding. And there's something that we're doing right now at Raindance, and it's telling your story and finding brands and private individuals who believe in what you do. And a big this to the people inhabiting those ivory towers. I'm very, very sorry. They're lovely individuals. I know all of them, but together as a collective, they are absolutely constipated.
Well, look, I have to say that I've bashed my head against the gates that are kept by the gatekeepers in this industry enough. I've done it. I have done it. And when we came into lockdown, there were a number of factors, I'm sure for so many people, but there were a number of factors that made me make a decision, I guess. And I used the opportunity to put the very small amount of extra cash that I had, which I don't have very much, never really been very financially well off, to take over 70 courses. So there were either courses, I did webinars, workshops with Raindance, with Film London, with the London Film School, with Cine Circle, with Women in Film, with whatever I could to refresh myself. So I had the knowledge, I'd done things, I've directed a couple of short films. I'd put in applications for about 3 new short films that I was trying to get off the ground that I didn't get funding for, I didn't get chosen for. And I refreshed myself. So I did producers courses. I did courses at the PMA, the Production Managers Association. I hate spreadsheets. I hate all of that. I can't, honestly, cannot get my head around it. It's just, my brain doesn't compute there. But I was very lucky to meet a great girl who became my assistant producer. And she was working with me before the feature film happened. And she's brilliant because she understands all of that. And she's very good with my dyslexia. And so she just sort of like corrects things as we go. And she can take all of the information that I throw at her and put it in a wonderful way. Michelle Fazine, she's now at Box to Box Films doing Drive to Survive. She went on from the feature film onto that. But I did courses with Simon Hunter. I did cinematography with Zoran. When we opened up, this was this time last year, actually. And it wasn't because I want to be a cinematographer, it's because I want to be able to have a better vocabulary with my DOP. I want to be able to talk to my crew in a way. I want to know everything, and I know that from having worked on the television a lot. But it's very different when you're the director as well. So I also did courses in ADing. Not that I ever want to be an AD, but they do an amazing job, and I love the woman who was my AD, my first AD on the feature film. In fact, she's a director as well. She's at film school, and I then went and did a role in her film for her. But she's brilliant. And again, you know, I think that when you can get how people are working, for me, I love working with a team that I can have conversations with and I can work with. And understand what they're doing so that I don't put unreasonable requests on them and their time. So I'd done all of these courses and I was working on certain scripts and putting in applications. And my friend Sam came to me and said, got this idea for a film of this play that I was in. And I've gone and bought the rights to it. And will you have a look? So I read it. I mean, I'd never seen it as a play. And I read it, and just because of the way that my mind is, and I'm obsessed with films, obsessed. I think in sort of pictures, I think. I read it like that, and I got it straight off. I just knew that I had absolutely no doubt that I could do this. So myself and Sam had a number of discussions about it, and I said, look, you know, you can spend years trying to raise the money for this, or we could raise a small amount of money and make it in June or October. I don't know why I said June or October. I think it was either before or after the summer holidays because of my kid, and we were still under lockdown, and we went, well, let's choose a date in June. And we did it, and we produced it together and got a great crew, as I said before, and it came with some of the actors that were originally in it, and the writer Torben Betts, who's brilliant playwright, absolutely incredible, so talented. he said, oh, could I, would you consider me for the role of Oliver? And you know, I talked to him a lot, and I just thought, yeah, why not?
Brilliant.
When he wrote it originally, I think he wrote it for himself. He was an actor, or he went to drama school, but then he went into writing plays, and he hadn't done anything. But I think he's wonderful in it, you know, I really do. It's really good in it. And yeah, and we were up and running then, and we shot for about 3 weeks. And I have to say, I learned a lot from some of the courses I did with Simon. It just reminded me at times of things to do, things to look out for and keep on my toes, because shooting a short for 2 or 3 days is really different from shooting a feature for 3 weeks and producing it as well. So I did production design. So I on it. I obviously was with Sam producing it and directed it, and every single day you're exhausted, and you just like a machine. You just keep going and keep going and keep going until the thing is over. And as soon as it's over, you want to do another one, because it's so addictive. I love it so much.
So if anybody doesn't know, it's Invincible, isn't it, Emma?
Yeah, it's called Invincible, and we're nearly at picture lock. I reckon we're pretty much there, just waiting on a bit of feedback, and we're we're about to soon be going into sound design and the grade.
That's brilliant. So that sort of initial stage, was it a crowdfunding campaign that set that up?
Yes. Yeah, we did a crowdfund. So Sam and I both put our own money in. She put in more than me because she had more. And we also have some support of Paul Whitehouse.
Great.
Because Sam was in Only Fools and Horses.
Yeah.
So we knew Paul Whitehouse, what she did.
Yeah.
And we went and asked for his support, and we got that. So he's an executive producer with myself and Sam as well. And I'd been involved with films that have been crowdfunded before. So I've been in a film that had crowdfunding called Falling, and that's with an amazing director called Gabrielle Russell. And that's a long short. And we did crowdfunding for the first film that I directed, which was called Honest Lies. But I've always shied away from crowdfunding a little bit. I think that's having come through the route of acting in major feature films and BBC stuff, which have funding, like proper money. For me, going and saying, "Oh, can we have some money, please?" I found that really, really hard. So I did say to Sam, "Look, we can do this way if you want." And she is great at that sort of stuff. So we made our first crowdfund video. We put our first crowdfund out there back in May of last year. And our second crowdfund campaign is out now on Greenlit. And it's not the way I would like to do it always. If I could, I would rather work with money. It's coming, big money. Because what we've made this for is like, people talk about micro budgets. This is nano budget. It's like minute budget. But you've got great people. People were paid apart from myself. My editor have been working on it for months and months and months. You know, there's no money for lunch. You know, I have to make sandwiches every day. But it's okay. It's fine because we love doing it. Oh, I know. I was a part of do you know Chris Jones, Elliot? I did some courses with him years ago as well. And I was in the first crowdfunded feature film. So I was in 50 Kisses as well. And my friend Gabriella Apicella, she wrote a short that was in that I was, she's a writer, and I played the part for her in that. I play a tramp, an old drunk tramp lady. And she approached me one day and said, oh, I've got this other sort of film that I'd like to have a look at. I'd like you to have a look at this part, Sophie. And I read it, and, you know, we had a meeting, and she says, well, what do you think? Would you do that? And I said, yeah, I'd love to play that part. It's a great part. She said, I've got another question for you. Will you direct it too? And I was like, because she knew I wanted to direct. And that was how I started directing. And I directed myself in that. She produced it and we crowdfunded it.
How was that, directing yourself?
I really like it. I don't have to tell myself what to do.
Exactly. I thought you were going to say that.
I know exactly what I want myself to do, you know.
Would you do that again, Emma?
I would like to.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
On that film, I had my very good mate, Gabrielle Russell. So there's one Gabriella and one Gabrielle. And she came and AD'd for me, just so that she could keep an eye out and say, no, Emma, that was rubbish, if she needed to. Thank God she didn't. But I think that I would have people I trust around me. And now I have a team of people I really trust.
That's
I've got a cinematographer who completely gets me and I love working with. I've got an editor that, you know, if you can sit in a room for sort of 6 months, tiny room with someone editing a film and get through that, you know, you've hopefully are able to do more projects together.
Yeah.
So,
and what's been the biggest challenge for you as directing a feature, and how have you overcome that?
oh,
or maybe there haven't been any challenges.
there are challenges all the way through. But I think that they come with the job in a way, you know, the challenges that you're going to face along the way. You get tired, you make mistakes, you learn from those mistakes, hopefully. I hope I'm going to not make the same mistakes again. It is a long haul to make a feature, actually, and you've got to have the courage to stick with it, I guess. A long time ago, an acting teacher of mine said, oh yeah, you've got the ability, you've got some ability, but have you got the stickability? And that's sort of stuck with me, funnily enough, throughout my career, because when I stopped acting to raise a child as a single mum, you know, I often used to think to myself, well, maybe I haven't got the stickability, you know, because it's lovely if you're getting acting gigs all the time. But when you reach a certain age as a woman, and if you have time away as well, you know, that's difficult. But you have to not rely on your agent to get you work, really. You have to go out there and create it yourself. So I would like to direct myself again in something. If I was able to get the money for a feature that I'm working on and I could do that, that would be amazing. But by then I might be too old. My Barbara's saying that she's 40, but I'm like a lot older than that.
You're not too old, Emma. And just to say as well, if anybody's looked at your demo reel, I mean, you really are an amazing actor, and you have this sort of kind of spellbinding presence. Can you share what goes on in your mind before you sort of, you know, when you take on a character? What is it that goes on in your mind? You know, is there anything that other actors could learn from you, because you're so skilled?
interesting question and a difficult question, because I think that there are so many amazing actors out there, so many incredible, talented people, and people bring their own uniqueness and individuality to the job. And I think that when you have confidence in being yourself and you bring that to a job, then I think that's what
Sorry,
that's all right. That's what directors are looking for. I think for me, I love seeing someone who's unique and different. I would say you have to do a lot of work. You have to do your homework. You have to put in the effort and put in the work. It's all of the same as when you're making a film. You have to put in the hard slog. So I don't know what goes through my mind when I'm doing a role, preparing for a role. I don't do theatre anymore. I haven't done theatre for years and years and years, actually. And there's all sorts of other stories, which thank God we don't have time to go into, about why I don't do that. But I do love the medium of film. And I think that if, as an actor, if you're doing theatre, once the thing is up and running, it's the medium of the cast, you know, it's their creation nightly. Every time the curtain goes back and they go out there and they create the story again and again. And that's what I certainly learned when I was doing world tour with the English Shakespeare Company, that, you know, it was off, there was something that was different from one night to the next, and you have to think on your feet, and if something goes wrong, you have to deal with it. You have to get through to the end of the play. When you're acting in film, you come and you do the job. Then you go. Then the director starts weaving and bringing it all together. So, and I'm sure, I know that Swati knows this very well, and Elliot as well. You can change someone's performance in the edit massively. Yeah. You can do all sorts of things with it. And that's the fun. And it's lovely. And then, you know, when you put music on with it, it's going to change. And depending on how you set scenes against each other, it's going to change. So as an actor, the only thing you really can do is come with, if you're doing film, is come with as much as you can give to something and listen to what the director's vision is. Because they generally, I'd say this, you know, they're going to change it anyway to make it what they have is their vision afterwards. So if you can give them what they want, that's great. Whereas on stage, you can do what you want, if you see what I mean. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does.
And I think for me, if I'm working with a director, I want to know what they want from me.
Yeah.
And then I can offer them all sorts of things, and I can offer them that in different shades. I can say, well, here it is in purple and here it is in green. Which one do you want? You know, but that's kind of along the lines of what you were asking for. But and then let's see where it goes and what happens. And I suppose it depends on what it is that you're doing as well. If you're doing something that is more improvisational, then that's a whole different story. The actors in Invincible are amazing. They're amazing. It's been a joy editing because it's all there. And, you know, I'm not having to create anything. They're just so good. I'm so lucky. They do so much of the work for us.
I suppose it's also, I mean, you know, it's probably quite special as well that, you know, you as an actor, you know what you're looking for, you know what's good. And, you know, it's great, I think, as a director to have that knowledge and have that confidence as well. And obviously a lot of these actors are people that you've worked with in the past as well. So there's that sort of trust and camaraderie there as well, isn't there?
Yeah, I hadn't actually worked with any of them, to be honest.
Oh, you know?
No, I hadn't. No.
So how did you find them then? How did you come
Well,
across them?
because Samantha Seeger, who's the other producer, we go back a very long way, and she's seen that I've been making films. She knows I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
And she wanted to make this project happen. And, you know, there was different ways of looking at that project. And I think had it gone a different route, it would still not be made. It would be on the table somewhere still looking for funding.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she knew that I knew how to put things together as well. So that's how. And I suppose Sam, obviously, you know, she played the role of Dawn, and she, you know, she wanted to do it, and I had no doubt about that. And the amazing Laura Howard, she's great, and she's plays Emily in it. So I didn't need to audition. It would be nice to have an opportunity for another film to audition lots of people, but with this one, it was, you know, they were all there. They'd played it before, but very differently on stage. And I'd never seen it on stage. So I knew what I wanted. You know.
Yeah.
I went to my, the house that we had, I emptied it and filled it up and created the world in this house. And, you know, spent about a month doing that. And we were looking for a production designer while I was doing the job, really. And then eventually we went, well, I've already done it now. And because I paint as well, and there are lots of art pieces in the film, I did the paintings as well.
Swati's
Swati's
just asked, did you think seeing it on stage would influence your vision?
Maybe, yeah. I don't, if I'd seen it on stage, I don't know, because I hadn't, so I don't know. But the fact that I hadn't seen it meant that when I read it as a film.
Yeah.
I went right back to the original script for the play, and I read it as a film, and I changed it into a shooting script for myself, really. Yeah.
And if I know, you know, you've got this crowdfunding campaign out at the moment, in what kind of ways can people actually get involved in that, Emma? What sort of roles are up for grabs in that, and, you know, various ways to get involved and support the film at the same time?
There's a couple of things happening. The cast are actually going to do a reading
of
the film on the 1st of May.
Oh, fantastic.
In Dalston.
Wow.
And I will show a trailer for the film there.
Great.
And that hasn't gone out yet. I think, Sam, we haven't actually put that out on wherever we're putting it out.
Yeah.
And on the crowdfunding campaign, there are different rewards. There are things like associate producer. I've got quite a lot of those now.
Right.
And a signed copy of the script, I think. And I'm not 100% sure anymore, because I've not looked at the rewards on it for quite some time. Did you look at it, Jennie?
I did have a look, and I'll be getting stuck in there myself. I'm not sure in which way, but I think one of them I saw as well was, so there was it associate exec producer as well?
Yeah, there's a couple of executive producers up for grabs if you've got enough money. But I think even if people just want to put in a couple of quid, you know, that's the thing. We've done it so that people can just put in a few quid here and there, because I know that we'll finish the film. I know that things do take a lot of money and they do take a lot of time, but you know, I haven't taken a penny out of it. Neither has Sam, and neither is the editor at the moment. So it's just about getting the film finished.
It's a really, I mean, you know, from what I've seen and heard so far, it's such an exciting project to be part of. And I think one of the rewards as well was to go to the premiere, which would be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
But do you have any, I mean, obviously it's really difficult to say when that might be. Are you thinking 2023?
I'm hoping that later on this year, because I'm so close to Picture Lock, and there's a composer already working on it.
Brilliant.
And it's just finishing the sound design and the grade.
Yeah.
And we're going to be submitting it to film festivals. So depends which film festival it gets into, here or there.
Yeah.
And if it's over the pond, then that will be a premiere that people aren't going to be coming to unless they're there. But if it's in this country, then that's when we'll do a premiere for people to come to. Yes, in London somewhere.
That's brilliant. That's fantastic. Well, if anybody can and wants to get involved, then please do. Randall has put the link in the chat, so you can save that so that you can go and take a look. It's also really exciting because there's a couple of sort of things you can watch on there as well that really give the feel and the buzz for the film. So just before I sort of open up for others to ask you some questions, Emma, I mean, I know it's very difficult to say, but if you could say, what has been the most exciting part of your creative journey to date?
Wow. I don't know. I mean, there are so many different parts that have been really exciting. Obviously, directing a feature film is pretty exciting, actually.
Yeah.
But getting my first role in feature film to play Rosalind in As You Like It, that was pretty special at the time. I mean, it was 1990, I think it was.
Gosh.
90 or
90. That's really, really early on to have had such a big break, isn't it?
Yeah, I had all my big breaks early and then it kind of went down for a while.
It will pick up. The future is very bright for you, Emma. I think we all know that.
I think I always was someone who just sort of stepped back. You know, there are other people that were very good at pushing themselves, getting out there, networking, promoting themselves in as actors and everything. I've never been particularly good at that. It's funny, I kind of found networking on Zoom during the pandemic so much easier than I'd ever found networking otherwise.
Yeah. I'm with you there. I feel the same way, actually. I think, again, you and I have both discussed this sort of introvert extrovert sort of divide, and I think for those who sort of straddle both, it's a much more comfortable environment, perhaps if you're slightly more to the introverted side as well.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Emma, it has been absolutely delightful talking to you. I am going to open up to others to give them a chance to ask you some questions. And I think just to kick us off, Swati, I think you had a question, if I'm right.
Yeah, let me unmute. So Emma, it has been such a wonderful experience listening to all your endeavors, and there's so much to learn. I'm sure I'll be listening to the recording again and again to get some useful tips. So my question is, you've been a really active member of Collab Writers, and just like you, I also found networking through Zoom pretty good in the pandemic. So how has been your experience, and do you think there'll be scope for future collaborations, or have you already found some collaborators?
I did find people that I really connect with, click with, I don't know, through all sorts of networking on Zoom around the world. I've sort of made some amazing friends, funnily enough. Actors had to go and do workshops on Zoom, and we were all doing sort of self-tape workshops on Zoom. I met a really amazing woman there who's become a very good friend, just laughing our heads off at something that went wrong and we weren't supposed to. And, you know, that was hilarious. And other people I've become friends with, someone who was in one of the producers courses that I did at Rain Dance. And then I met him again somewhere else. And then the people at Rain Dance, well, like yourself, Swati, I would like to be in one of your films. So, you know, we'll talk about that. No, I want to get
totally blown away, you know, seeing your demo reel as I was talking.
I want to get myself back over to India. I want to come and, yeah, I'd like to do something like that. But I'm really up for collaborating with people, because I think that's how you find new, fresh work. I think that's how you find new energy. And when, if something's not happening and you're with sort of working either on your own or with the same people and it's sort of still going along, and yet you get together with someone else and you bring all of your energy and ideas together and collaborate on something, then magic happens, the spark happens, and something flies off, and you get this sort of energy behind you that makes you go and do it. I think, you know, you're accountable to somebody else. So yeah, I want to work with other people. I'd like to sometimes write with other people, because I get a bit, I haven't written very much in the last year. Obviously my head's been full of the film that I've been making, but before that I was writing quite a lot. But I find that writing, I'm often, I think, better sometimes with other people, not always, but sometimes writing with someone else. I think you kind of get other voices going on with something. I keep on meaning to ask Barbara if she's still here to have a Zoom with me. I was kept on thinking about doing some writing with Barbara at one point. There she is. Hello.
Do you want me to say anything, Emma?
It's up to you.
Yeah, it's funny because me and Emma met in Sundance Collab randomly, and then we kind of discovered that we were in Film London labs,
Yeah.
in many Film London labs, and then we just had some exchange. And I mean, I don't know, I personally came into writing after directing already a few things, and also being mainly director and producer. And I found writing extremely hard. It's the hardest. I'm the doer. I'm not the sitter at the table, you know. So but I still haven't discovered the right collaborator for writing. So I'm not sure, Emma. I don't know whether you could maybe talk a little bit about this, how you work with writers and how do you share writing, whether you write with them or you just instruct them. Because writers can be so hard, you know, they're so fixated on their vision, you know.
Yeah, they can be, but also if they've got a really strong vision, then it's great. So, but if you have something that I think that you think is going to fly better by working with someone else, I haven't done it for years, but I used to, and it's just a case of literally drinking a lot of coffee, walking around a lot, typing a lot, saying, what does this line sound like? Especially if you're working with actors as well, you know, it can be fun. But I've also worked with someone else where we've sort of written a line, sent it back to each other, back and forth, and that didn't really work for me. Yes, as you can tell, I've been all over the place on Zoom. I've literally been all over the world, as well as Rain Dance, and we've been at Sundance, and we've been, in lots of places. So just sort of using the opportunity to suck up as much information as is possible from wherever is possible, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I always find the writing thing so magical, the writing collaborations, and I tried to do it once and we just fell out with the writer. It's just like pointless. I better write it myself. But also, you know, for me, it's quite interesting. I'm getting quite a lot of advice if a writer is struggling, try to get actors to do read through and try to get them to contribute to dialogue, etc. I mean, it's something you do as well in the process when you work in rehearsal or work on like locking the script with actors.
Well, for the one that I just directed, it was different because that was a play already, and it was different. But I would like to do that on the feature that I'm working on. I would like to do that, work with actors, and I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I'm quite sure that Martin Scorsese doesn't lock anything down until he's had table reads with his actors and they've said, oh, well, I'm going to say this like that, or don't need to say that, so, you're in good company, Barbara, not locking it down until you've.
They hate me for it. The whole last minute. But anyway,
actors
no,
or
everyone,
writers.
the crew, the DOP, where is the shot list? It's just all last minute, but yeah. But anyway, well done. I mean, I don't know. Congratulations. I'm so inspired by this, that you just made a feature. It's wow.
Yeah. Well, you'll be doing it next anyway.
Hopefully. Okay, I'm gonna disappear because I'm so not camera ready. So that's why I'm hiding.
Okay.
No worries. Thanks.
Barbara, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Emma?
I really loved hearing about all of your work. Are there any particular themes or genres that you kind of gravitate towards and that you think, yes, I want to work on this project because I love talking about this?
That's a really good question. I have traditionally been what I call drama. Generally, as an actor, and what I write as well. Making it Invincible was great for me because it's drama, but it's comedy as well. It's got funny moments in it. And I've done comedy workshops with writing with a writing coach where it's about comedy. I'm not a comedy writer at all. But what's interesting is I think that when comedy comes out of something that's real in drama, that's where it lies. I find comedy in things for me as a writer. If it's not there, it's not there. I don't sort of write to make it funny. I don't know how people do that. I think it's an incredible skill and talent. I know Randall's very good at that. That's Randall's area. He's brilliant and very funny. I have one, I won't say thriller, I suppose it's more of a psychological piece, maybe not really a thriller, but I have one that's more along those lines, drama and suspense, I suppose. But yeah, myself and Gabriella came up with a story, a sci-fi story that we made into a short film that we did, which is called Left Hand Side. And that was fun, but I haven't written genre. I'm sure it's fun, writing a good horror or a good sci-fi. And you know what? Everyone says that genre is the new way, genre is the thing. And it's great if that's what you're doing, because there is a huge market for it. But I did think what was interesting was, when you get films coming through like Drive My Car or The Lost Daughter, someone's said something about Maggie Gyllenhaal. They're very traditional films that are drama, and yet they don't get funding in this country. It's mad to me. Am I right? I mean, I don't know if Barbara would maybe agree as well, but whenever, I talk with
I agree, yeah.
Whenever I talk with people,
yeah, I also feel sorry.
Give us a drama, give us a horror, give us something like that, because if it's drama, well, we can't fund that. Sorry, Barbara.
Yeah, I was just saying that in America, it seems to be like everyone is just making movies, whatever genre, and it's happening. It seems like it's more funding. But also it's funny, I went to some talk in Norwich once on the Zoom, because I go everywhere as well. And there was a producer of Father with Anthony Hopkins talking. Yeah. And he said 80 or 90% of the movie was funded by private person. private equity, because he said I couldn't even get sponsored for Anthony Hopkins because he's old now. Nobody wanted to see him. This is what he said in the chat on Zoom. And I was like, wow, incredible. I just couldn't believe it that even Anthony Hopkins wasn't good enough to get funding or public funding, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Any other questions?
I think Mithun.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, yeah, hi there. Sorry, I'm not camera ready, so I'm not putting my camera on. Apologies. Just a couple of things. First of all, I just want to say thank you. So it's been a really lovely evening, and just kind of to Emma as an educator, just the struggles that you had, kind of, you know, getting your talent recognised. I have a lot of empathy. I'm hoping that things are slightly changing now. In some parts of the world, they're not, but yeah, that was really lovely. And I'm an educator that's kind of shifting into the creative field and kind of like obviously making short films, etc. How challenging is it? How realistic is it, making a huge shift? If you're interested in, my passion is kind of writing, directing, producing. I've done a few rain dance courses way back with Elliot quite a few years ago now. But yeah, just a bit of advice on that, really. Thank you.
I think, and I'm sure that Elliot would say this, the thing to do is to just do it, to get a bunch of people. Wherever you live, you know, you can advertise, find out who's around you, find local actors, and just make something. Because once you've done one, you've got something to show, and then you can do the next one. But it's the thing of, I think that some people wait too long to make something because they want everything to be perfect. They want the money, they want the industry money, which, as we've said, you know, just doesn't come. And sometimes you have to do it yourself, because waiting for the right producer is also hard. I don't know about everybody else, but for me, finding a producer that, you know, I sort of would want to have as a partner that I go through life with, you know, it's like having a producer that you make lots of things with is like having a husband or a wife, you know, in a way. And that I've never found that. So it sort of came to the point where, well, I've just got to get on and do it myself. So I think that if you've got stuff you want to make, if you've got a script that you've written, just go and do it, especially if you've done courses already. Do it, because you already know that you can.
Great, thank you.
Could I interject, Emma? I think the main reason people don't make movies is because of lack of confidence, whether it's lack of money, lack of camera, lack of skills, or so on. But my first intern made a film for practically nothing, Edgar Wright. It wasn't very good, but he learned filmmaking. And a year or so after I started Raindance, another guy made a film for £4,000, a feature film called The Following, Chris Nolan. And they had none of us had been to film school. We were all totally flat broke. And we just decided to do it. And we didn't actually know what the fuck we were doing, but we just did it.
Yeah.
Good advice, yeah.
As you've done too. So Mithun and anyone else listening, I'm sure other people that I know personally here would agree that the biggest barrier to success is getting off your butt and actually pushing the button. And the other thing too, if I might briefly interject, is don't be afraid of failure. Your first film is going to be shit. Just get it out of your system and then do the next one.
That is very good advice. I like that. Yeah, definitely. Get in there. Thank you.
Thank you both. Lawrence, you've had your hand up for a while. Please do ask.
Well, I was just fascinated listening to everyone. So yeah, funny story. Thank you for being on the show. But back on the East Coast, I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. I built a career as a homeless hippie mountain man, biker, Viking Santa.
Wow.
So when I know, who would have thought? So, and I apologize for the floating head. I didn't realize wearing a black shirt was going to do that to me. So I moved to LA a couple of months ago, and there is such a homeless problem here that everybody thought I really was homeless. So I literally cut everything off And a week later, I was cast at Disney as what? Homeless, looking like this. So anyway, thank you so much for being on and being honest. I had a speech impediment as a child, so I have to pronounce every word before I say it, which gives me a unique delivery. But I was going to share that my screenplay just went up at Blue Cat about World War II, where I talk about the British Spitfire girls, which nobody knows about. And what an amazing, I mean, I don't know if you realize this, but the ladies were so accomplished. One of them would fly a bomber into an airfield, and the air crew would hold her while they searched the plane for the flight crew, because they couldn't believe a woman could fly a bomber by herself.
Wow.
So you all take care. That was it. I was just saying hello.
No, I think it's great. I mean, that's, you know, women who are being confident and strong, and, you know, I'm sure there's a great story there.
Yep, it is. That's why I wrote it.
And that's something that I'm so passionate about, is writing stories about women for, you know, women, made by women, because I think it is about time that a lot of stories are told about women.
Well, I can tell you, I have flipped a couple of scripts where I turned the male characters into female leads, and it completely changed and raised the entire level of the story.
Yeah.
And those have moved forward, and I'm like, hey, I'm with that. Let's stay there. Okay.
Yeah, I think that there's a huge appetite for it as well.
That's it. Take care.
Thank you. I'm sharing the screen with a lovely cat. Thank you, Lawrence. So Nina has also asked a question. So Nina's asked if you could give a piece of advice to any filmmaker, what would it be, Emma?
Know your vision. Know what it is that you want to make, I suppose, and why you want to make it, unless it's experimental film, because I'm still in the process of making a short film that's an experimental piece. So I didn't necessarily know exactly what that was when I started, but I think if you're making something that is scripted, as a director, know what it is that you're making. So my first short film that I directed, I storyboarded. I made ridiculous drawings throughout, but I knew someone who was a storyboard artist, so they actually storyboarded the whole thing for me, because I was in it and directing it, so that when I was actually shooting it, I was able to refer back, I was able to discuss things with the DOP, so I knew what I was doing. I had a vision for the whole piece. I knew the tone of it. I wasn't thinking on my feet. So I had to be really prepared. And know that you want to do it as well, you know, because I think it is really hard. It does take a lot out of you. If you really want to do it, it's in your heart, and you really want to direct, or you have a story that you've written that you think that you're the only person that can tell that story, then you go out and do it. I have seen people think that they want to direct, and they don't really. They just have a story that they want someone else to tell, and they don't understand, they don't really have a desire to work with the visuals, if you see what I mean. So I think know that you really want to do it. And then when you, as Elliot was saying, when you start to do it, have the confidence that you're telling that story, and tell that story without any doubts. Yeah, that's what I'd say. I don't know if that's good enough for you. Listen to other filmmakers, people that have done a lot, you know, you can find them all over the place. I listened to a really good interview from Paul Greengrass. That was great. He's such a nice bloke. And, you know, he gave really, really good interview. And he was talking about the end of Captain Phillips, when the scene that they'd written, it just wasn't working. And so they moved Tom Hanks to the actual medic bay on the ship that they were filming on, and they got the real medics to do what they would really do with someone in that situation for that last scene in Captain Phillips. You know, and that was really good, you know. So you're learning things when you're listening to people who have made films they really accomplished.
That's really good advice, Emma. There's also Giles Alderson, who's been a guest on here previously. He does the Filmmakers podcast, which is really good as well.
Oh yes, I like him.
Inspiring. Yeah, there's a lot out there, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
Well, Emma, you've been very generous with your time tonight. Thank you so much again. And we cannot wait. Oh, Barbara's doing lots of applause. We can't wait for the film to come out. And anybody, if you do want to be involved, please do click on the link that Randall put in the chat, and try and get involved to support Emma and spread the word on social as well. That would be absolutely amazing, and in your circles, of course. Thank you, Emma. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me, Jenny, and thank you all for listening. And I just wanted to say to Lawrence as well, it's funny, you know, when you said about the speech impediment, that you have to think about every word that you say. I have that too, but I think it's more from the fact that when I read at speaking pace. So when I'm thinking and talking, I actually talk quite slowly, but when I'm acting, I don't, because I've learned it and I can do it much more quickly. It's really weird the way that neurodiverse brains work diversely, I suppose. Anyway, thank you very much for inviting me on, Jenny. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Emma. And yeah, stay in touch. I'm going to stop the